I'm 42, and I've been married to my husband, Mark, 45, for 6 years now. We both had children from previous marriages. I have one son, Max, 17, and he has a daughter, Haley, 16. We blended families when the kids were 11 and 12. It was rough at first, but I thought we'd figured it out. Or at least, I thought we had. 3 weeks ago, I found something on Haley's iPad that made my stomach drop. I wasn't snooping. I was simply cleaning the kitchen when I noticed her iPad buzzing nonstop. She left it charging on the counter. Curiosity got the better of me because the notifications were piling up like crazy. Dozens of messages from some group chat she was in. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But I opened the screen, just for a second. And that's when I saw my name. In bold, in all caps, in messages filled with screenshots. Of me. At the grocery store, at the gym, leaving my office. I scrolled. More photos. Time-stamped. Location tagged. At first, I couldn't even understand what I was seeing. Then it hit me. Haley had been tracking me. Not just once. Over weeks. Every single move I made was documented. Times I left the house. When I picked up coffee. Even one time when I had a minor panic attack and sat in my car for 40 minutes before going into Target. She knew about that too. Because she'd been using a location tracking app. One I didn't even know was on my phone. That's when the real horror set in. She must have installed it herself. And she wasn't just watching me. She was sharing it with her friends. What I didn't know yet was why. I didn't say anything that night. I couldn't. I was so shaken. I literally felt sick. I barely slept. I just kept replaying it all in my head. Every moment that had felt weird over the past few weeks. Every time I thought I'd seen Haley smirk when I mentioned being somewhere. I thought I was imagining it. I thought I was being paranoid. But I wasn't. The next morning, I woke up early and checked my phone settings. Sure enough, buried under some obscure permissions tab was a hidden location sharing app. I didn't install it. I'd never even heard of it. But it had been running for over a month. And guess what? The permission toggle had been switched on for Haley's iCloud account. That's when I knew this wasn't just some innocent accident. She deliberately did this. I decided not to confront her right away. Instead, I told Mark. I expected him to be shocked, outraged even. But his reaction? Totally flat. He actually had the nerve to say, "She's just being curious. She probably wanted to make sure you weren't doing anything shady." I blinked. Shady? He shrugged. I mean, you're private. You come and go without saying much. Maybe she was just trying to figure out your routine. Teenagers do weird stuff. I was speechless. That's when it hit me. He was trying to rationalize it. Like I was the one overreacting. Like Haley invading my privacy, sharing my every move with her friends, wasn't a huge, massive violation. I tried to keep calm. I told him plainly, this wasn't okay. That I felt humiliated and unsafe in my own home. That I didn't even feel comfortable going to the store anymore, knowing she could be watching, screenshotting, sharing it with God knows who. His answer? She didn't mean harm. She's just struggling since the divorce. You know that. So, let me get this straight. Spying on your stepmom, secretly installing tracking software, sending it to your group chat for laughs. That's just struggling? It made me wonder if Mark had known all along. I asked him, directly, had he known about the app? He swore up and down that he didn't, but his hesitation, that half-second pause before he answered, it told me everything I needed to know. There's more to this, and I was going to find out what. I waited until Haley got home from school that afternoon. I didn't want to do it angry, so I sat in the living room, took a deep breath, and asked her to come sit down. She walked in all casual, phone in hand, scrolling like I was interrupting her life. No eye contact, just that teenage indifference that makes you want to scream. But I didn't scream. I told her I knew about the app, that I knew she had been tracking me, that I'd seen the screenshots, that I'd seen everything. She didn't deny it. She didn't even look surprised. She just kind of rolled her eyes and said, "It's not that big a deal." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She acted like I was overreacting to some prank. I told her, clearly, this was serious, that secretly tracking someone's location was not normal, that it was an invasion of privacy, a violation of trust, and just creepy. She shrugged. And then she said something I'll never forget. Well, I wanted to see if you were cheating on Dad. Cheating? I was floored. I asked her why she thought that, where that idea even came from. And she said, casually, like she was explaining the weather, "You always come home late, and you don't tell us where you've been. Dad said he thinks you're hiding something." It hit me like a punch to the chest. Dad said, "That's where this came from, Mark. Not some silly teenage suspicion. Not an overactive imagination. She got the idea from her father. Mark, the man I married, the man who watched me cry through job stress, who knew how hard I'd worked to keep things running, had been planting doubt in his daughter's head. Not only did he not stop her from tracking me, he gave her a reason to." I stared at her in disbelief. I asked if she even saw anything, if she found anything that suggested I was cheating. She shrugged again. "Not really. You just go to the gym and coffee shops, but you're secretive." Secretive, as in, not reporting my every move to a teenager. I didn't say much after that. I just told her to delete the app and hand over her devices until I could verify everything was removed. She didn't argue, but her expression, that smug, almost satisfied look, it made me sick, because she wasn't sorry, not even a little. And now I had to face the real issue. This wasn't about Haley anymore. This was about Mark. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I just kept going over every conversation, every look, every strange moment over the past 6 months that hadn't made sense until now. Why Mark had started randomly checking in when I was out. Why Haley had suddenly become cold, standoffish. Why I'd walk into a room and feel like a conversation had just stopped. I thought I was imagining things, but I wasn't. I was being watched. I waited until the next morning to confront him. I needed to see his face, to hear how he'd spin it. He was getting dressed for work, half-buttoning his shirt when I asked calmly, "Did you tell Haley I was cheating on you?" He froze, just for a second. Then he gave this weak little laugh, like I was being ridiculous, and said, "What? No, of course not." I stared at him. "She told me you did." He looked down at his tie. Wouldn't meet my eyes. I may have said, "I was worried that you'd been distant." I asked him when he said that. He didn't answer, so I kept pressing. "Did you ask her to track me?" And that's when he lost it. He raised his voice, not yelling, but sharp, defensive. He said he never asked her to do anything, that she did it on her own, that he didn't know about the app until now, and even if he had mentioned his suspicions to her, it wasn't a big deal because, his exact words, she was just looking out for me. Looking out for him. Not me, the woman he married, the one being spied on. Violated. I asked him how long he'd been suspicious of me, if he genuinely believed I was having an affair. His answer? "You've changed." That was it. No details. No examples. Just that I've changed. He said I was more guarded, that I don't talk to him the same way anymore, that I take my phone with me everywhere. Funny how he never once considered why I changed. Maybe because he stopped asking me how I was. Maybe because he stopped listening when I answered. Maybe because every time I shared something real, something hard, he turned it into a joke or walked away. But of course, I was the problem. I told him the trust was gone, that I felt betrayed by both of them, that I didn't feel safe in my own home, not emotionally, not digitally, not physically. And you know what he said? He told me I was overreacting, that if I wasn't hiding anything, I wouldn't be so upset. That's when I realized this wasn't about the app anymore. This was about control, and I was done letting them have it. After that conversation, everything in the house felt different. Quiet, stale, tense in a way I can't fully describe. Like I was being watched even more closely, now that they knew I knew. I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. So I did what anyone would do when they realize they've been violated. I started locking things down. First, I changed every password, phone, email, bank logins, even the smart thermostat. Anything Haley might have touched or Mark could have guessed. I factory reset my phone and laptop, bought a new router, set up 2-factor authentication across the board. I even deleted social media entirely. Not because I was hiding, but because I suddenly realized how much of me was out there. easy to monitor. And then, I checked our shared family cloud account. I hadn't touched it in months. Mark set it up when we got married, said it'd make things easier for syncing calendars, grocery lists, that kind of thing. At the time, I thought it was sweet, efficient, trusting, but buried in the shared folders? A full backup of my phone, my texts, my notes, my photos, synced automatically. I sat there staring at it, shaking. He knew things, private things, things I never shared out loud. Like when I vented in my notes app after a horrible week at work and said I wished I had more time to myself. Or when I saved a draft text I never sent, a message I wrote to my sister after a fight with Mark, where I said I was feeling distant in the marriage and didn't know how to fix it. He read that. I know he did. Because 2 days after that draft, he made a random comment about how it's weird how people think distance is always someone else's fault. I brushed it off at the time. Now, I realize he was quoting me from a message I never even sent. So not only had he planted suspicion in his daughter's head, he'd been reading my thoughts, my fears, my private emotions, and doing nothing with them. No real conversations, no attempts to repair what was broken. Just collecting them like ammo, waiting to see if I'd slip up, if I'd become the villain he was already building in his mind. It wasn't just betrayal, it was surveillance, and I was done being monitored in my own home. So I made a decision. I was going to disappear, not forever, just long enough to see what he'd do when I stopped being traceable. No phone, no social media, no calendars. Let's see how well he functions when the puppet cuts her own strings. The morning I left, I didn't slam any doors. I didn't scream. I didn't even leave a note. I just packed a small bag while Mark was in the shower. Laptop, charger, a few clothes, my passport just in case. And I walked out. I had already planned everything the night before. Booked a short-term rental an hour away under my maiden name, paid in cash, even created a separate email for the reservation. I disabled every location setting on my phone, turned off Find My, removed myself from the family cloud, blocked Haley and Mark's numbers, temporarily. I wasn't trying to disappear forever. I just needed space. The moment I shut the front door behind me, I felt it. Relief. It hit me like a wave. This wild, overwhelming sense of freedom, like I'd been underwater without realizing it. Like I could finally breathe. By the time I pulled onto the freeway, my hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew it was the right thing. The first night away, I just sat. No TV, no music, just me, a cup of tea, and silence. And for the first time in months, I felt invisible, in the best possible way. No one was watching me. No one was waiting to check my GPS location or scan my texts or wonder why I was late getting home. Just quiet. It was beautiful. Until my burner phone started ringing. I'd only given the number to one person, my best friend Claire. She knew I was leaving. I'd told her everything. The app, the tracking, the cloud backups, all of it. She was the one who helped me buy the prepaid phone and insisted I check in once I was safe. But this time, she wasn't calling to check in. She was calling to warn me, because apparently, Mark was spiraling. According to Claire, he had already contacted my office, my sister, even my old college roommate. He told them I was having an episode and that he was worried for my safety. He told one person I was losing touch with reality. Told another I might be off my meds. I don't even take any. He was painting a picture, one where he was the concerned, devoted husband, and I was the unstable wife who'd gone off the deep end. It was calculated, perfectly manipulative. Just enough concern to sound noble. Just enough doubt to make people hesitate before asking questions. And that's when I realized something horrifying. He wasn't trying to find me. He was trying to control the narrative before I could. Because the truth? It made him look awful. But if he could get to everyone first, if he could convince them I was unwell, then maybe, just maybe, he could keep playing the victim. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about survival. And if I didn't speak up, soon, I might lose more than just my marriage. I might lose my voice. 2 days after I went dark, my boss called Claire. Not me. Not HR. Claire. Which was odd, considering Claire doesn't work with me. isn't related to me, and doesn't even live in the same city. He said Mark told him I was having mental health complications and might need extended leave, possibly even a wellness check, that I had been acting erratic, that I'd disappeared without warning, and he didn't want me to do anything permanent. Permanent. He used that word, like I was a danger to myself. That was the moment I realized just how far he was willing to go. Mark wasn't just spinning a story anymore. He was building a case, a version of me that couldn't be trusted, a version that could be tracked, controlled, silenced, committed even, if things escalated far enough. And worst of all, people were starting to believe him. Because Mark is charming, calm, rational. He's the kind of guy who laughs warmly at parties and holds doors open for strangers. The kind of guy who, if he said his wife was unraveling, people wouldn't question it, especially when she'd suddenly dropped off the map. It terrified me. I realized that if I didn't reclaim my version of the story, fast, it wouldn't be mine anymore. So I reached out. Not to him, to everyone else. I wrote one long message, carefully worded, not angry or messy or dramatic, and I sent it to my boss, my sister, my closest friends. I told them the truth about the tracking app, the screenshots, the cloud backups, Haley's role, Mark's manipulation, the fake concern, the smear campaign. I attached photos, the ones from Haley's group chat that I'd screenshotted before confronting her. I even included a screen recording of the tracking app permissions, showing her account listed as the one with access to my data. I ended the message with a simple line. I'm safe. I'm not broken. I'm just finally out from under someone who wanted me to feel that way. The responses came slowly, but they came. My sister called first. She cried, apologized for doubting me, even for a second. My boss emailed back, horrified, and told me to take all the time I needed. He promised no action would be taken until I was ready. Even Claire's husband, who barely knew me, sent a message saying, "Whatever you need, we've got you." And just like that, the power started shifting. Not all of it, not overnight, but enough. Enough to remind me I wasn't crazy, I wasn't overreacting, I wasn't alone, and most importantly, that I wasn't voiceless anymore. Mark tried to rewrite my life in real time, to narrate my movements, my feelings, my worth. But now, I had the mic back, and I wasn't going quiet again. I returned home 2 weeks later. Not to reconcile, not to talk, just to collect my things. Mark didn't know I was coming. I made sure of that. I waited until he and Haley were gone. Claire drove me, stood by while I walked through the front door of the life I used to call mine. It was eerie how normal everything looked. The shoes by the door, the mug on the counter, the blanket still tossed over the couch where I used to curl up on Sunday mornings. And yet, it felt foreign, like a museum replica of my life. Familiar, but no longer mine. I moved quickly, packed what mattered, left what didn't. Claire helped me load boxes into her car, quiet and respectful, like she knew any noise might tip the balance and bring a flood of emotion I couldn't afford to feel yet. Before I left, I walked through one last time. I stopped in the hallway, where the family photos hung. One of them, the picture from our first summer vacation together, had been replaced. A newer frame. Just Mark and Haley. No me. That was when I knew he never planned to fix things. He'd already started editing me out. I took one final look, walked outside, and shut the door behind me. For good. That night, I filed for divorce. 2 days later, I got a lawyer. 3 days after that, I changed my number. Mark tried to reach out, of course, through email, through mutual friends, even through Haley, who posted a cryptic message on social media about fake stepmoms who pretend to care. I didn't respond. Not because I was being petty, because I was finally free. It's been 5 weeks since I left. I'm staying with Claire for now while I sort things out. It's not glamorous. I'm sleeping in her guest room surrounded by moving boxes and cat toys. But it's peaceful. I've started therapy, found a support group, made a list of everything I want to do. Travel, maybe go back to school, maybe finally launch that side business I kept putting off. For the first time in years, I wake up without a pit in my stomach. No tracking, no secrets, no one watching me to find reasons not to trust me. Just me. And that's enough. I don't know what Mark and Haley tell people now. I'm sure the story has changed a dozen times. Maybe I'm still the villain in their version. But I've learned something through all this. You can't control what people think of you. You can only control what you accept. And I don't accept being monitored, manipulated, or made to question my own reality. I may have walked away from that house with fewer things than I came in with, but I left with something far more important: my voice, my truth, and finally, myself.